Hey everyone, Switch here. It is time for a field video. This time is about a G5 background character named Ferris. Ferris is a young male unicorn. In fact, he made his first official appearance in MLP, a New Generation movie. He was actually one of the unicorn children at the playground that the main five saw when they showed up in Bradwood. So you may ask me, why I decided to make a fade video based on a small background character like Ferris? Well, here's actually a good reason for that. By the end of the last chapter of Make You Mark, there was actually that when he was in Maritime Bay with two male Earth ponies. And turned out, after some little bit of research, it turned out those male Earth ponies was actually his adopted parents. So that means he was an orphan back in Bradwood. So I'm a bit curious. Even since I did saw that scene with him with his new dads, I was like, what about his biological parents? What are they? What happened to them? There is no thing mentioned about them at all in the series. Like, no names, no, like, what happened to them. In fact, even though he made his first official appearance in the first movie and a few times in Make You Mark, but there were no scenes of him talking. Like, I'm pretty curious to know more about his biological parents. Like, what happened to them? I mean, considering at least that we know for the one fact that he was an orphan back in Bradwood the time before he was adopted. So I was very curious. What happened to his biological parents? Are they died in an accident or something? I mean, there was no like mentioning like of him being as an orphan back in the first movie. And well, I have to say it's very likely that they passed away sometime even before the movie had even premiered. But how? Well, it's difficult to tell exactly. So, he must have like been in an orphanage at the time when the main five arrived to Brotherhood. That would make sense. Because if he was adopted by two male Earth ponies eventually by the end or sometime in the beginning of Make You Mark series, it would make sense that he was an orphan, that he lived in an orphanage. But the question about the other children, were they also orphans? Or were they friends of his? Well, not necessarily that all of them were orphans themselves. It's possible that at least what I can think of, that Ferris was the only orphan, but the others were his friends. So, what's the point of being asking myself, what about his biological parents? Because at least one of the children that we saw at the playground did mention the word dad. So at least one of them had a parent. But when I saw that Ferris actually had two male Earth ponies as parents, like two fathers, I was actually a bit seriously surprised. But then about his biological parents. Well, there is a strong possibility they have passed away sometime before he made the first appearance in the movie. It's a possibility likely that they passed away in an accident. Or maybe that they passed away by an illness or something. But since there are no information based on his actual parents, so there is a very speculation. In fact, I'm not so sure if anyone else within a fandom had noticed about this or even had talked about this. So my opinion is either that his parents have passed away by an accident or they passed away by disease. It's only those two possibilities because it's a very unlikely they were, well, if they had been attacked by some other unicorn. Very unlikely. But my strongest indication that they died in an accident or by the disease, it's just very difficult to say for precise. I mean, think about one of the things. If he was an orphan, he was taken in by an orphanage in Bridlewood, which would have meant he didn't have any other relatives alive. He may have been the sole living of his own family, so it would have made sense. So now the question is, when were Ferris adopted? Well, it's never certain to say precise, but I had to say sometime between the ending of a New Generation movie and sometime between the beginning of Make You Mark series. As the Make You Mark series is at place a few months after the movie ended. So it's very likely that Sander and Diggy, his parents, adopted him sometime between that. It's a very possibility that now that the friendship is back between all three Pornokines and the magic is back, and that they were already married and they wanted to adopt, and they went to Bridlewood to see if there was any potential child they could adopt, and they immediately found Ferris and they want to adopt him. That's the only I can think of, at least. That's a very small possibility that happened. Because he did make a few appearances on the chapters of Make You Mark series, including by the end of Make You Mark chapter 6. But it's still a question mark here. Like a big question mark. What about his parents? Well, we don't know anything about his actual biological parents at all. They were never mentioned or even seen or anything. If he had talked himself about mentioning how much he loved his new parents, but even though he missed his own parents. So my final conclusion about his biological parents, they either died in an accident or they passed away as some form of disease. That which left him the sole living member of his family, which eventually would how he ended up in an orphanage. Which in the end he was adopted by the two male Earth police. I think is an actual happy family. This also not only makes that he is been adopted, but they made it also the first official male this male same gender couple. We know for a fact only one other female characters, that was Skululu's aunt and auntie, but it's just amazing how they decided to make this happen. So yeah, my belief is that Ferris' parents passed away either in an accident or by disease. If you have any thoughts of their own, let me know. This is Switch W, over and out.